Vault Talk with Bill Daughtry. All goes down next.
Sanctioned by the new founding fathers and America, a nation reborn. May God be with you all.
Guys, 1,000 apologies. So sorry. Please tell me you guys can hear both of us loud and clear now. We weren't just going to end this and not keep this momentum going. Please, guys, let me know that you guys can hear us. I already see 14 coming in. There's more and more that are coming back into this chat. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And for those that are coming on in late, welcome to another edition of Vault Talk. We have New York sports media legend, Mr. Bill Daughtry, in the building.
Hammer.
1,000 apologies. 1,000 apologies.
Apologize to me, man. That's what live stuff is all about, man. We were working in Madison Square Garden. Remember the big blackout we had? I guess it was in 2003. Yeah. We were on the air that day, and I heard something go in my earphones, and then everything went black. So,
Lord,
hey, it's all good, bro. Pleasure to be here.
Stuff happens, I guess, right?
Pleasure to be here.
Definitely appreciate it. Let's see. Was I muted again? No, we had some technical issues, John. It's all good. We're here now, and I appreciate everybody that's in here. So Bill covered the Islanders when you first started your career, and this was during the dynasty time, right?
1981.
4 straight Stanley Cups.
1981, that was the year we started at WMCA. We the radio home of the Islanders. Game 6 of the 1981 World Series got rained out between the Dodgers and the Yankees that night in the Bronx. So me and an associate, because we had full media credentials and privileges, parking spot, the whole thing, we go on out to Nassau Coliseum. It was the first time I'd been to a professional hockey game. They were playing the Edmonton Oilers that night. Oh, yum, I get to see Gretzky and this black goaltender. Well, I got to see a lot of Grant Fuhr, but Gretzky, first shift out, he comes circling Billy Smith's net. He takes a two-handed, chops him down. Gretzky doesn't skate the rest of the night, but still, I was enthralled. I was infatuated. I liked this game. I want to see more of it. And what the heck, I was the sports director of the radio station. They had credentials, started making that trek out to Nassau Coliseum frequently. Had some thrilling moments. The team kind of took me in, which was something that I really didn't expect because, hey, they were at the top of their game. They were champions. Well, here's another intrusion. Not at all. Chico Resch and I became pretty good friends. John Potvin was a pretty good friend. All these guys, Gillies and Bossy, who just passed away recently. I was good friends with all of those guys, and so we really had a nice little family out there, and it was going really well until they played the Oilers in the 83-84 finals, and we all know what happened there. But fast forward a couple of years, when the New Jersey Devils came into the league, some of the relationships I had built with the Islanders, particularly with Larry Brooks, who worked for the New York Post at the time. He was one of their columnists. I think Brooksy is still there. But he became the communications director for the Devils, and he hired me to be the third man in their booth. I was their on ice roving correspondent during games. So, and of course, Chico Resch comes over and is the Devils goaltender. And because we had that great relationship on the island, it's like me and Chico, we hit it off large. So the Islanders, yeah, they were interesting to me for a lot of reasons, particularly how they treated people. And it wasn't just them. Everybody in the NHL. Here you got these guys. People think they're savages because they get out there and fight and swing sticks and all that foolishness. They're some of the nicest people that you will ever meet. And as professional athletes, everyone else is a distant second to the players in the NHL.
That is awesome. What was it that made you make the transition? Because you went from hockey to then baseball, right?
Well, I mean, that's the part that everybody saw, but I always loved sports. I wanted to be a professional baseball player. I had 3 tryouts. I had a tryout with the Royals for their Royals Academy, had a tryout with the Mets and the Cardinals when I was in college. And once you realize that you're not going to be good enough to play, any love that you have for the game has to be as one that follows the game. And I was always around the game on some level, grew up with professional athletes in my hometown of Mount Vernon, New York. Ken Singleton is a friend of this day. I've known Ken Singleton since I was 12 years old. Great switch hitter for the Baltimore Orioles, won a world championship in 1963. And one of the biggest thrills of my professional career was working with Kenny on MSG Yankee broadcast early in the aughts. So, there was that. Gus Williams, a good friend of mine who won his NBA title with the Seattle Supersonics. I can never, ever, under any circumstances, root for the Oklahoma City Thunder because I know how they got there. Okay. But, I was always around the game. I was always around people when I wasn't good enough to play the game. Then I got into broadcasting. I was a news broadcaster for the National Black Network. And their sports director was a gentleman named Frank Bannister who had played in the Met minor league system. And we would go at it back and forth in the newsroom, always arguing about, sports arguments.
Right.
And the World Series comes to New York in 1976. The Yankees are playing the Cincinnati Reds. And Dr. Frank says to me, he says, "Hey, I need some help at the World Series. Can you come out and help?" Can I? And so the first time I was in a professional locker room was in Game 4 of the 1976 World Series, the night the bench hit the crushing home run to embellish the Cincinnati dynasty and finish the Yankees off in the Bronx. And from there, I started to get opportunities in sports, but baseball was always my first love. Not so much now, but that's how I got into being a professional broadcaster.
My 2 sports growing up was both football and baseball. Like we had talked off air, and I told you, like my dad played cricket, so I guess being in the States, this is how I was gonna play with a legit bat. And he took me to my first game when I was about 5 years old. It was the Mets and the Astros, and I just fell in love. Like I idolized growing up Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza. I played catcher and center fielder. I had the opportunity to meet Ken Griffey Jr. in 2008 in Sarasota. Go figure, at the old spring training facility. And it just was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm not worthy. Like, thank you so much for everything you've taught me. Like I used to emulate his batting stance, and I was a lefty, but through righty, it was good times, man.
See, I can get that I'm not worthy thing because, as I said, the first time I was in a major league locker room, the Yankees had just lost to the Cincinnati Reds. So we had to go to the Reds locker room and cover the story. And Pedro Bourbono, it was a cold night in October. He's running around with a garden hose. He was hooked up to a sink and was just soaking everybody. But anyway, while we're sitting in there, here comes Roy White. Remember Roy White, number 6 left fielder for the Yankees?
Yes.
He comes walking into the Cincinnati locker room in his white pinstripe uniform. And I'm like, what's going to happen now? And Roy White just went up to one of the Reds. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Morgan or Griffey or whomever it was. And he shook their hand and said, "Congratulations. You deserve it. You guys are the right champions, but we'll be back next year." And he walked out. And I will never forget that. But you talk about not feeling worthy. Here are the people. I'm in the room. Brett Musburger's down at the end of the room interviewing Gary Nolan. Here's Joe Morgan and Pete Rose, and they're eating their post-game. And the Reds, this was all business to them because they won the championship the year before, so champagne wasn't flying everywhere, just Bourbon with that stupid hose. But here I am, and I'm saying to myself, I'm in the midst of all this. And I got a little precursor to that earlier in the year, that summer. The Democratic National Convention was at Madison Square Garden. And here I am walking on the same floor with Walter Mondale, Jimmy Carter, Ted Kennedy, Senator Frank Church from Idaho, you name it, they were there. Jesse Jackson. I got pictures of Jesse Jackson with a big fro and a dashiki at the 76 convention. But here's the thing. This is what I realized in being on the floor with all these people, Maynard Jackson, Ed Bradley. I got pictures of all these cats, man. Hatcher, who was the mayor of Gary, Indiana at the time. I realized it's like, you know what? If these people don't put on deodorant in the morning, they got the same problems I got. And they were nice people for the most part. You know, so that kind of paved the way for me getting past that I'm not worthy moment. You know what? If you're in the room, if you're on the floor, you're worthy. You're worthy. Yeah, you might have to button down and be a little bit humble for a minute and don't do nothing to get noticed. Don't do nothing stupid to get noticed. But if you're in the room, you belong in the room.
Well, that's some real valuable words right there. That's for damn sure.
True.
Shout out to my big brother, Graf of the Oak Las Vegas Raiders Network. He's got a question for you.
What's up, Graf?
Any Madden stories, Bill? Salute legend.
So, Hammer, I sent you a picture a couple of days ago. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Me, Madden, and Dave Patterson.
Yes, sir.
Dave Patterson was our producer at the MSG Sports Desk. He went on the MLB Network. He helped them get started. I think Dave is retired now. But that picture with John Madden, remember, John Madden didn't fly, right?
Right.
So that was John Madden's first visit to Madison Square Garden that night. And he was gracious enough to come and sit down and spend a few minutes with us on Sports Desk. And we had a good time talking football, talking video games. And fast forward, about 5 years later, I have to do Nick play-by-play on the radio. They were going to play the Golden State Warriors in Oakland. That picture right there. Steph Curry was he was a member of the Warriors at the time, but he was a scrub. He did not come off the bench. This is when Raymond Felton was there. This was pre-Carmelo Anthony with the Knicks. So we go out. You have to travel to an NBA city the day before. Got to be there 24 hours before tip. So we're in San Francisco, and we're staying at the St. Regis Hotel, I believe it was, and there's a little sidewalk cafe, which was part of a deli across the street. And Tina Savasio, who works at Channel 5, we were both covering this game. So me and Tina go down for breakfast at the cafe, and who's sitting curbside at one of the tables having his little nosh? John Madden. Coach, how you doing? Bill Daughtry. Oh, Bill, I remember you. You were the guy my first night at Madison Square Garden. He blew me away. I was floored. It's like, really? This guy remembered me? So like I said, if you're in the room, you belong. Boy, I look young there, don't I? My goodness, look at that dark hair. I still have that suit, by the way.
Do you?
Yes, I do. Don't wear it, but I still have it.
Mr. Daughtry, can you name the top 5 sports moments that you have covered in your career? That's a great question. Shout out to my other brother, another member of Mount Shieldmore, Big Mike Raider. Appreciate you, brother.
Top 5. So I've covered 6 Super Bowls. Super Bowl coverage is totally different now. Now you have, media night at the Super Bowl. I think they do that on Monday. Well, Tuesday used to be media day. And years ago, even before WMCA, I had the privilege of calling Greenwich High School football. And Greenwich High is where Steve Young went to high school. I did not get to call any of Steve's games, but Steve did not win a state championship. His two younger brothers did. But anyway, the first Super Bowl I covered was Super Bowl 23 in Miami. And at Media Day, everybody is mobbing Joe Montana. I go to see Steve Young because his mom used to bring tapes to the radio station on Friday night so I could record the game for them on Saturday. Got to know his mother and his father pretty well. Got to know his brother pretty well. As a matter of fact, I think his younger brother, Mike, is the one that told him he had to quit because he had all the concussions and the syndrome and all that.
Right.
So interviewing Steve Young at Super Bowl 23 is on the list. Second on the list is, to this day, the best football game I've ever been to, Super Bowl 25 between the Giants and the Buffalo Bills. 1-point game. Desert Storm is going on. A gunship is flying around over Tampa Stadium. Whitney Houston did the national anthem, the flyby, the game. I mean, to this day, that is still the number one sports event I have ever covered. And like I said, I've covered 6 Super Bowls. Ken Singleton was a friend of mine, still is a friend of mine. I've known Kenny since he was 12 years old. His brother and I were 1 year apart in high school. And so I would go visit them often. And I remember watching Kenny play ball in the Bronx Federation League down by Yankee Stadium. Watched him play American Legion ball at Post 3. Watched him throughout his major league career. But another big moment for me was doing New York Yankee baseball with Ken Singleton on MSG. So that would be number 3. Number 4 would be being in the same room as the Stanley Cup with the New York Islanders when they beat the Edmonton Oilers in the 82-83 finals. They won the championship at Nassau Coliseum. So we were in the room with the cup, with the families, and being in the same room with the Stanley Cup, like you were saying, not worthy. This is pretty deep, given the history of that trophy.
Right.
And I think number 5. There's so many things that I've done and so many things that I've seen, but number 5 for me was getting to vote for my friend Gus Williams as the All-Star Game MVP at the Meadowlands.
Wow.
Larry Bird won the MVP that day, but Gus had a legit game. He finished with more than 20 points, and I mean, he was everything that the West needed. They just couldn't get the win with him. So I right off the top, those are 5 that are pretty big to me.
Shout out to Big Mike for that question.
Thanks, Mike.
Johnny is asking, not sure you asked, did Bill meet Bill King?
Bill King. Are we talking about Billy King, who used to run the Nets?
I'm going to assume he's talking about Billy King. That's my guess.
I think I met Billy when he was with the Sixers. You know, nothing that either one of us would hang on to is, hey, Bill, how you doing? That kind of thing.
Just like in passing, more or less.
Yeah. You know, NBA is my passion now. Out of all the professional sports, I love the NBA. I'm totally disappointed in what the Knicks have done this offseason. They think Julius Randle is going to be something that he's not going to be. And so, you know, a friend of mine in Sydney, Australia, I think I can say we're friends. I've been on his show enough. CT, he does a show called The Streets Are Buzzing. And his show is all Knicks. And the last time he asked me to be on, I said, I'm not feeling the Knicks right now because they got the Villanova reunion going here in the offseason. That's it.
I saw that and was like, okay, like I'll give you, I'll probably be called a fraud for this one. So growing up on Long Island, my dad and I used to watch the Knicks religiously, like Ewing, Oakley, Starks, Harper. Like I would watch those games until I would fall asleep. Got older, started watching a little bit more of the West Coast like the Western Conference, because like to me it was a hell of a lot more faster. And they're scoring a lot more points. I watched OKC when they had KD and Westbrook. I watched the Sacramento Kings. Again, shout out to my big brother Graf. He's a diehard Kings fan. He's from Sac. I even watched the Trailblazers. I came across the Warriors a couple of years back. This was before they started winning the championships, but I went to a game when LeBron was playing for the Heat. This was 2014. Curry dropped about 38 points that night, was not missing a thing. David Lee, the former Knick, was doing his thing as well. And I told people, I'm like, mark my words, give it a few years. This team is going to be a problem. And I've been watching the Warriors ever since.
Well, that's a good choice. And even now, they are a team that's in a little bit of transition. It'd be interesting to see, what unfolds with Chris Paul and how much Steve Kerr changes the way that they play. Because I think there's going to be a change in how they go about their business. And, because it's still on the screen about top 5 sports moments. And it's not so much games, man. It's like some of the stuff that happens away from the games. And I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York. And a good friend of mine had an older sister. Her name was Betty Ann. I ain't giving out last names. And so they lived on a dead-end street, Hancock Avenue. It's not your typical dead-end street with a wall at the end and high rise. No, this is a suburban neighborhood. As a matter of fact, there was a fence and a firehouse on the other side of the fence. But anyway, we're on Hancock Avenue, where Rudy Hackett lived on Hancock Avenue. Rudy Hackett, I don't know if people remember him. He went to Syracuse, outstanding basketball player, had a cup of tea, cup of coffee in the NBA with Utah and in the ABA with St. Louis, and then he went overseas and had a successful career in Italy. But we were on that block, and one day, this lemon meringue, lemon chiffon Eldorado comes slinking through the block real slow. And, everybody knows everybody's car. Like, who the hell is this? Right. And the car goes down to the end of the block where my friend lived. And who gets out of the car? Who's driving the car? Walt Clyde Frazier.
Oh,
He's
Lord.
going to see this young lady. This is like, I'm early teens, man. And it's like, damn. And I got to know Clyde from that. And I got to know him to the point that years later, when we're working together on Knick games, he said, "Stop asking me. Don't talk about her."
Yeah.
we were in Detroit. We were in Detroit when the Pistons played at the Palace, and Bill Clinton happened to be in town. And so when the president comes to town, man, everything is just like screwed up for miles around.
Yep.
What is usually a 35, 40-minute ride from where we were staying at Wayne County Airport to the Palace at Auburn Hills, that day, because of the presence of Bill Clinton, that ride took almost 2 hours. And me and Clyde had some great conversations in that 2 hours. And I, even though I knew him, I think that's when we really got to know each other. And he was like my big brother and guardian angel all the years I was with the Knicks, because there was sometimes I rubbed people the wrong way.
Why does that sound incredibly hard to believe?
Well, the Knicks were not a good team back then. Right. They really weren't. I mean, this is like after Allen Houston hits the shot, and after they have the great series back-to-back years with Miami, they kind of hit the skids a little bit. And so, and when I watch games on MSG now, I know what's at play for the announcers. I get it. I know. I sat in that seat, so I know some of the restraints that They have. And I'll give you an example. During the playoffs, this past playoffs, when the Knicks were playing against Cleveland Cavaliers, whenever the Knicks are, whenever there's a network broadcast of the Knicks, I just watch the network broadcast because I know what I'm going to get on MSG. But I'm watching this game on TNT, and it's a game where the Knicks have a big lead late, and Julius Randle has a hard landing. And Reggie Miller is doing the game, and Reggie says, that should not have happened. Thibodeau has not learned because I was doing that game where Derrick Rose blew out his knee, had a career-changing knee injury against the Philadelphia 76ers, and I hope I'm not seeing that all over again.
Right.
And I'm saying to myself, those words you will never hear uttered on an MSG broadcast.
So pretty much, this is probably like a straightforward question, but when it comes to working directly for a network, like specifically for a team, like you have to just be more or less suit and tied up, yes sir, when it comes to covering that team. Like you really can't be objective or go against them, or more or less be honest, right? Like you really can't be honest and really say what you want to say when it comes to things like that, right?
Here's what I'll say about the situation with the Knicks as it related to me. And we were told many times over, Mr. Dolan has no issue with you telling the truth. The issue comes in if you just keep beating the same dead horse in the same spot over and over. Say what you got to say and move on. And as long as you did that, you really didn't have a problem there. But to give you a more direct answer, every company has their rules. Every company has their standards. I learned how to walk the fence. I learned how to walk that fence line at Madison Square Garden without crossing over, because if you cross over, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. Yeah. You're going to lose your job, or there's going to be repercussions. And so I never had any situation that got to that point there. I did have one at ESPN toward the end. I'll just say that the general manager called me up, and the first words out of his mouth were, "Who do you think you are?
Oh,
you don't set editorial policy here." And that's when I said, you know what? He's right.
Wow.
So, I didn't get fired or anything like that. I was told to stay home for a couple of days. Didn't mess with my money.
Yeah.
But everybody has rules. And one of the reasons I retired was I was tired of the rules. I didn't have to do it anymore.
Maybe that's why people are asking you to be to get into podcasting now that you're retired, because then you can go off the cuff and be as unfiltered as you want.
Well, let me just say this. I was asked that very question last Saturday in Hawthorne, New Jersey. How come you don't do a podcast? Why would I do that? When I decided I was done, I was done. I don't need to cover everything. I don't need to be everywhere. I don't need to know everything anymore. I know what I want to know, what I need to know, and I keep it moving. It's a young man, young woman's game. I'm pushing up on 70. Okay. In Spanish, you know what that means.
Sí.
So it's like everything has a season. And for me, my season had passed, and I knew when it was time to go. And thankfully, I think because I knew, that's why people still enjoy me, and there is some clamoring, for me to do something. But let me let you know, I will be guest on shows like this from time to time. But as for the regular grind of putting out a show, that's not going to happen. No podcast here. You'll see me when you see me, and I'm on X, so you can always reach me there. X used to be called Twitter.
For those that don't know.
In case you missed it.
For everybody that is in here, if you haven't already, we are being joined right now by New York sports media legend Bill Daughtry. And for those that are coming in here for the first time, do not let it be your last. Break them thumbs, hit them subs, smash the bell. Shout out to another one of my guys from the West Coast, Rob Cisneros. Mr. Daughtry, being around legends, how much of a gap between Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe? Wow.
I can be real objective about this too, because I saw Jordan play live once, and I paid to do that. I paid to go see Michael Jordan, took my family to the Meadowlands. The night he dropped a double nickel on the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, I wasn't working that night because me and my wife went to see a Broadway play, Smokey Joe's Cafe. And we get in the car and we're on our way home, and I turn it on and Breen is going ballistic because Jordan is having the game of his life. 55 he dropped that night on the Knicks. So it's interesting because while they are all driven winners, they were different kinds of players. Although Jordan was closest to Kobe, but LeBron is just like a world apart from those guys. He's just a totally different kind of beast, because Jordan and Kobe, they could play 1, 2, and 3 with no problem. But 4 and 5, that would be a little bit of a stretch for them. LeBron can play 4. LeBron can play 5. To me, LeBron is closer to Irvin Magic Johnson and Julius Irving. And I'll tell you what, I'll throw Oscar Robertson into that mix too. Oscar was from a slightly different era, and so was the Doctor. But those 3 guys, to me, they would be closer. LeBron, and rather Kobe and Jordan, they were kind of like one and the same. They were both one-offs. They were both unique, both great champions, great players. And the thing I love about Jordan is Jordan just needed any excuse. I don't know if you were watching the ESPN documentary. The name of it escapes me right now, the 5-episode thing. Where
I can't remember the name of it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where George Karl walks in a restaurant. And again, George Karl, like Jordan, was a North Carolina guy. Come on, man. Tar Heel to Tar Heel. But this is when they met in the championship in 96. And Karl comes into the restaurant and he ignores Jordan. So, of course, Michael took it out on Gary Payton and the rest of the Sonics that night, the next night when they played. So Jordan would take anything and just like use it to use it as fuel to beat you. Kobe was a little different.
There it is, The Last Dance. There we go.
The Last Dance. Thank you, Robert. We only watched it like 6 times twice. Kobe just had that fire, man. It was always burning. Always. I don't care what he did. And it's interesting, when I worked at WFAN, I had an opportunity to interview Kobe. But my personal policy was, I don't interview high school players. What are the kids? What do they have to say? And I'll give it to you that Kobe was a little different because he spoke multiple languages.
Right.
He had the international flavor, the international experience of growing up in Italy because his father, Joe Bryant, played over there for so long. Joe Bryant, teammate of Julius Irving. So Kobe was a little bit of a different character, but I didn't talk to high school kids. I just didn't. Policy is policy, as Steve Carlton used to say. So, maybe I missed out on something, but I was at the Garden the night that Jeremy Lin lit up everything in a Laker uniform. And that's another documentary, 38 Minutes at the Garden. And that number 38, that's the number of points that Lin scored that night. That's the number of games that he played as a New York Knick, which was just kind of mind-boggling. I had the producer to that show on when I was doing an internet show about this time last year. and it was an interesting conversation. It was also a great documentary, 38 at the Garden, if you get a chance to see it on HBO. It was eye-opening. But I was at the Garden that night, and to me, that's one of the biggest nights that I've ever been in the world's most famous arena. Madison Square Garden was quite the experience, and working there for the better part of 20 years with both the Knicks and ESPN, that was a gift. That was a gift.
So we're gonna switch over now to your favorite football team. I know we saw the Hall of Fame game last night. Really wasn't much to talk about.
The Jets ain't my favorite football team.
Yeah, so we're not talking about the Jets.
But Hammer, I'm prepared to talk about the Jets. I saw some good stuff last night.
You want to talk a little about this game, and then we
can touch on it. Yeah, let's give some props to some people. Of course, Hard Knocks is going to start on August 8th on HBO, which will be the day before they play their next preseason game against the Panthers. Now, last night, it was third string, fourth string, Zach Wilson, who's going to be the backup quarterback. Bryce Huff had a nice game. He had a sack, linebacker. Will McDonald, their number one draft pick out of Iowa State. He got after the quarterback pretty good. He showed some tendencies as a edge rusher, a specialist. Chris Collinsworth was talking about how quickly he sheds blocks. And, I don't think he's going to be a threat to start right away. He's going to be a bit of a project, but he showed well last night. He had 3 tackles. You had Chaz Surratt, the linebacker, with a nice drop and read on a crossing pattern for a pickoff. Israel Abakanawanda, who
the running back.
He was their 5th round pick from Pittsburgh. You just saw him just turn on the jets and get to that corner and get in the end zone on a 10-yard touchdown run. Zerline was in fine form, midseason form. I can't gloss over Zach Wilson. He had a nice performance. He's going to be the backup, but he had a nice performance, particularly I think it was a 54-yard pass to Malik Taylor. He said, I got to get him a deep ball. He did. It looked good in a good spot. Zerline was solid with the field goals. Xavier Gibson had a nice kickoff return. Alec Erickson, he had a nice punt return. And then on the other side of the ball, I was impressed with DTR, as everybody's calling him, Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
That's the quarterback out of UCLA.
Out of UCLA, yeah. He played very well last night in that second half. Now, truth be told, when the lights went out and they had a delay at the end of the third quarter, it was like, okay, we ain't watching the fourth quarter. And that's how I found out Cleveland ultimately won the game. But I mean, you got low expectations. It's an extra playoff game for every extra preseason game for everybody. You don't want to get hurt. But and again, I go back to a point that Collinsworth made. You're seeing everybody in practice. You're seeing them in shorts. Now let's see what they look like when they start getting hit for real, when they got some pads on. And that's when you're going to start to separate the chaff from the wheat and figure out who might be able to help your team out, who might be able to play this game. So that was one of the things I was looking for. And the other thing, there's a third level that you're not going to see until the bell rings and the regular season begins in September. You want to see how these quarterbacks look when they have to read complex defenses, when they start overloading one side, when they start unbalancing one side, when you start getting the tricks like Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick in Super Bowl 25, he played 2 down linemen, 4 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs, and some of those linebackers could be in a disguise as a DB. So when you start getting into the exotics, when you start getting into blitzes, that's when you really find out who can play this game, and that's a level you're not going to see until you get to the regular season because they don't do that in the preseason. But now you want to see, okay, we've seen you in practice. Now let's see what happens when somebody with a different kind of uniform is coming after you behind, how you deal with that, how you deal with the hits, and how you deal with the aggression and sometimes the adversity.
I definitely like what I saw out of Will McDonald. And this was a guy that the Raiders, at least me and my guys, we had Will McDonald on our radar as a potential first-round pick for us. What I saw out of him last night, the dude definitely does have a motor. He was definitely shedding blocks and doing everything to try to get to the quarterback, and I was like, oh my goodness. The running back, I'm hearing people talk about him this morning, and are they going to pass up on Dalvin Cook and keep this kid? I think Dalvin Cook, what he did last weekend was to get some type of leverage, and he didn't walk out of Florham Park with a contract. So I think that was for leverage.
Yeah, he walked out of Florham Park. That's the problem. And apparently, from what I've been reading and hearing, is that Dalvin Cook wants to be a feature back. And the Jets are still waiting on Breece Hall, who really flashed before he tore up his knee last year.
Yep.
They're waiting for Breece Hall to come back. He's still on the PUP list, physically unable to perform, but they expect he'll be ready for the regular season. And Dalvin Cook, he's not trying to be anybody's backup. He's not trying to share time at the position. So that's a major obstacle. Denver is also interested, but there's a running back in front of him at Denver also. So Buffalo and Dallas are two of his likely landing spots, even though Dallas has a running back. I think in the back of his mind, Cook thinks he might be able to go in there and upset that apple cart. But yeah. I don't know. I get a feeling, and Dalvin Cook has some off-the-field stuff that's still hanging over him, some of it involving domestic abuse. It'll be very interesting to see if the woman owner of the Buffalo Bills decides to take him in, But there's definitely a spot there for him, because what was the problem with Buffalo over the past couple of years?
No running game.
Josh Allen, who's running the ball.
Exactly, and I've said that countless times. Like, their running game is Josh Allen, and that's it. Let's move on to the Giants, your New York Football Giants. You guys had a very interesting offseason. We traded Darren Waller to you guys. I wish you the best with him.
I was going to ask you, I mean, is a Raider watcher, is injury the only reason that you guys have lost interest in Darren Waller? Because I know he had problems staying on the field.
16 games in 2 years. You're dropping music videos after our team loses. You skipped a preseason game last year. Instead of supporting your teammates and being on the sideline with them, you went and hung out with your now wife at courtside at the Aces game. Just a lot of it adds up. And look, I called in. I spoke to Dave Rothenberg about this a few weeks ago. He's on the wrong side of 30. At his position, I think he's on the wrong side of 30, especially with the hankering hamstring injuries. Look, we got a 3rd-round pick back for that. We ended up drafting Trey Tucker, and we also ended up getting another tight end out of Notre Dame in Michael Mayer, who I'm incredibly excited about. I'm constantly hearing the comparison to that of Gronk, to that of Mark Andrews, to Greg Olsen. I'm like, you know what? I'm here for it. Like, the kid can block. He's a really good receiving tight end. I'm excited to see what he can do for us this coming season.
I'm not a comparison guy like that.
Right.
Come on, show me what you can do. Come on and play. Stay on the field. That's all I'm going to judge you on. I don't care about what you do, how you do, and where you do when you're not on the gridiron. Right. I'm kind of like past that. None of these guys. Let me put it this way. If you get a solid citizen out of any of these guys, you're getting a super duper bonus. Okay? Because what has their deal been their entire life? Win, climb the ladder, get to the next thing, no matter what, no matter how I do it. So to suddenly look at these young men and expect any of them to be citizen of the year, it's a stretch, because they all have a story, and most are coming from a really disparate situation, and everybody and their brother is leaning on them to pull the rope and carry the wagon and get everybody to the next level. So, again, I try and judge these guys on what they do on the field. And I don't know, for those who don't know, maybe they all need to listen to Herman Edwards. Because Herman Edwards would tell us, it was always fun spending time with Herman. Don't press send. But his other one that really resonates with me is, if it don't happen by 10 o'clock, it's not going to happen. So you don't have to be in the club until 1 and 2. And if it ain't happened by 10, take your behind on home because it's not going to happen. So.
Herm Edwards is definitely another one of the greatest coaches that I've had the opportunity to meet, and funny ass guy too.
you can't see it because it's off camera, but over in that corner, about 10 feet away from me, there is a 3-foot Herman Edwards bobblehead. Herm was my man. We had some good times together at Jet Camp.
You guys you locked in Daniel Jones for an extension, which I've had my negatives on Daniel Jones when
he's better than Jimmy G.
Oh no, you're in the black
hole.
I
went there, dog. I went there. I'm gonna mess with the black hole some more. Philly was worse. Philly was worse. The vet was worse than the black hole.
Oh my God. We just opened up Pandora's box.
I'm just saying. Now I'm that damn Giants fan. Get this guy out of here.
When it came to Daniel Jones being drafted in the first round, like I kind of was like, and this is just me looking from the standpoint of understanding the game since I was a little kid, like, who drafts a quarterback in the first round out of Duke? He went to Eli Manning's camp. That's cute, but the coaching staff, the head coaches that he had just couldn't get it done for him, and he had a very terrible first few years. Insert Brian Dable. All of a sudden, he revives his career. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Here's a couple of things. Remember Dave Brown?
Yes.
He was a Dookie. I think the Giants drafted him in the first round one of those days back there when Kent Graham was his backup. What happened, I think, with Daniel Jones, and I've always kind of been a Daniel Jones fan because he's 6'5". He throws the football with accuracy. I don't think we can dispute that. He throws the football with accuracy. He's been a pretty sturdy guy. He injured that shoulder against San Diego a couple of years ago. Then Dallas knocked him straight stupid down in Dallas a couple of years ago. Right. But since then, he's been a healthy, steady guy. And he's had the same coordinator now. He's been in the same program coming up on a second year. And if you're a quarterback, a young quarterback, that is huge in your development. I mean, he had the guy from Denver one year, McAdoo. What? Who are these people? Yeah, exactly. Where are they now? Where Daboll comes in, he's got a plan. He showed you how to win without a running game because who were we talking about before? Buffalo. He got it done there. So now you put some weapons around this guy, the most important one being Mr. Barkley, and I'm so happy that he finally came in. I think the bell rung for him that, okay, I get it. I'm not going to get my money. I'm not going to get that bag. But look at what happened with Le'Veon Bell when he sat out for a year. Hasn't been the same since. Exactly.
That ruined his career.
And I think when Barkley started to look at that, he talked about he had an epiphany before he signed. But I think that prospect of sitting out a year, never mind sitting out training camp, or because that stuff doesn't work well either. I think there was a time back in Raider history where a certain Marcus Allen sat out training camp in a dispute with Mr. Davis and had a horrendous season. With this game in the NFL, you've got to stay up to speed. You've got to stay on point, on track. Anytime you miss is going to be immensely not just detrimental to you, but to the organization. And I think Saquon Barkley kind of got a hold of that. Something in him said, dude, you don't want to sit out the season. Dude, you don't even want to miss training camp. Because the first thing that's going to happen when you miss training camp, week 2, hamstring. And it's going to take you the whole damn season to get right from that. Yep. And I mean, it's little things like that. And we're going to fight over money? So, okay, he'll play this 1 year under this contract. And somebody, maybe it'll be the Giants, but somebody will get a bag. Now, the only issue I have with the way the Giants treated Saquon was that team's success was directly related to him. That team's success, I don't want to say it was all about him, but he was about 55% of their offense.
Can the same be said about Josh Jacobs and his current situation as well? Like, he led the league in rushing last year. He made up for 33% of the team's offensive yards. 2 Pro Bowls and
did the Raiders make the playoffs?
No.
There you go. That's the difference.
But I think
because you saw what the Giants were the year before when Saquon tore up his knee against Chicago Bears. Right. The season was over. Mm-hmm. They were done. As talented as Daniel Jones is and shows the potential to be, he wasn't carrying that team without Saquon. He had him last year. That was their whole offense. That was their 1-2 punch.
If you look at the season that the Raiders made the wild card game, they won 5 in a row. And I've said it to people before, like, it came off the back of Josh Jacobs. And he was a dog those last few games and helped put us in the playoffs. Like, this past season, it was not what it should have been. A lot of costly mistakes, blowing leads at halftime, steering away from things that worked. But for somebody of Josh... Go ahead.
Well, was it the Patriot game where they let the receiver get behind them in the last minute of the game or something like that? I remember seeing that. No, that was the
Rams. That was the Rams where like it's. I look at what happened last year with things that we steered away from, things that were working. All of a sudden, okay, like, why are you airing it out when you're up 2 touchdowns? Why are you not running the ball and eating the clock? Like, a quarterback situation was a nightmare. We invested more in our offense than we did our defense last season, and it didn't really work for us. But for Jacobs, who has rushed for 1,000 yards 3 of his first 4 years in the league, he only missed 5 games for his career. Like, I don't see why all of a sudden, like, he's not being appreciated at his position. And I'm not understanding why the running back position is being so depreciated right now.
Running backs are like starting pitchers in baseball. They really don't count anymore, unfortunately. And I'm a running back guy. Greatest football player I ever saw was Jim Brown, bar none. So now the NFL is a quarterback league. Your quarterback went down last year. You had problems. You go to the NFC Championship game. The 49ers can't keep a quarterback on the field. They got slaughtered. An outstanding team with a great defense. But football is a complementary game. It's a balanced game. And on offense, if you don't have a quarterback, you are barbecue. I mean, last year, look at the Giants last year. Giants had 2 players. They had Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, and they had a decent defense. They had no receivers. None. That's why they spent all the time and money on Darren Waller, Jalen Hyatt, Paris Campbell, Cole Beasley. You know, they had to load up on guys. Okay, because they did not have a single dependable receiver. And when you don't have a single dependable receiver, you know what happens? It devalues your quarterback. It makes your quarterback's life tougher. This is a quarterback-driven league. Running backs, the most valuable running backs now are guys who can catch the ball out of the backfield, because we ain't lining up and going 3 yards in a cloud of dust anymore. Everybody is with spread formations. It's the college game now.
Yeah.
And running backs that are successful, they're going to be successful on sweeps, on stretches. They're going to be successful when they read that there's a blitz coming. They can hit the hole real quick. But it's not going to be every down now. I'm just going to stick it in your belly and look at what happened to Ezekiel Elliott. He's gone.
Yeah.
And he was the rage of the league when he came in, 4 years ago from Ohio State?
Yep.
And now he's basically done. And a large part of it is because the game has changed, the way they play the NFL game now.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So we had talked about this before. We were going to bring back a little nostalgia for you.
Come on.
I'm asking people in the chat, do they want it? I think they're going to say yes. So I'm going to put it up on the screen. Give me 2 seconds, guys. We should be up and running with this.
Give people what? Give people what? Give them what they want.
Dave Rothenberg always says it. He's a man of the people. I try to do the same for the nation. So
I'm going to say hello to my brother-in-law, Bert, down there in Florida. What's up, bro? We're going to work on that cowboy thing. Trust me.
Oh, God. There you guys go. Call into the SeatGeek Vault line. Have your voice heard. If you guys have any questions for Bill Daughtry, feel free to call in. We're going to do a few minutes, and then we're going to wrap it up. But, guys, call on in now, 347-471-0361. The Vault line is open. And for those trying to go to your next concert, go to your next Raider game, or any other event you want to go to, download the SeatGeek app. Use promo code HammersHouse for $20 off your first purchase. Download the SeatGeek app today in the Apple iTunes Store or the Google Play Store. And we have our first caller.
Call from
Big Rob.
Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the West Coast, our resident meathead of the Raider Nation, Rob Cisneros. What's good, bro?
Damn, Rob, what's up, bro?
How's it going? How's it going, sir? It's good to have you on the show. This is an excellent show, hearing stories and insight from someone who's been around, absolute legend. It's great to have you on the show, sir. The nation appreciates it. And what I was calling in to ask is, you've watched our Raiders throughout the years. What do you think is missing from our team, in your opinion, that would bring us back to the glory that the Raiders used to have? The stigma that the Raiders used to have back when they were actually a championship team. What are we missing?
One of the things that has negatively affected Raider Nation is you guys used to be the ultimate deep threat, period. I mean, you had Cliff Branch, Fred Biletnikoff, Casper running down the seam, goes to the post. It's not so much that you don't have those kind of players, but NFL defenses have evolved, bruh. Darryl LaMonica can't just stand back there and be the mad bomber no more. You go back to those great Raider teams. You go back to those great Raider teams, and you tell me, how many times did they face a nickel back? How many times did they face a dime? I mean, the defenses now are just so much more intricate. And the Raiders, they could play smash mouth football. They could punch you in the mouth and run it up and down your chest all day long. They could do that. But now the game doesn't lend itself to that kind of power game anymore. The game is finesse. The game is spread them out. The game is outrun them. The game is find holes in the defense, catch and run. It's not go 30 yards downfield and I'll hit you. Those days are long gone. And I think that more than anything else, you know, Josh McDaniels, he might be the guy for you. He might be. We'll see. He survived last year because there were like about 4 or 5 games where had you won, say, 3 or 4 of those games, would have been in the postseason. But there was something bonehead going on that cost you the game or made you lose a close game, be it penalties. I think the Patriot game was they took a roughing the passer penalty at the ultimate worst time in the game. They smashed Mac Jones, and it ultimately cost you guys the game. Those are the kinds of things that stop you from being a winner, and you can't be great until you are a consistent winner. And those are the kinds of things that stand in the way of the Raiders now. The game has changed. They struggle with that continuity. And now you can't play Raider football anymore. Al Davis is gone.
I appreciate that, sir.
Appreciate the call, brother.
Thank you, brother. Talk to you later, man. Thank you again, sir.
Appreciate you, man. Just trying to help the team.
Shout out to Rob Cisneros. He's one of our regular callers and such a solid dude. Guys, you see it on the screen. The Vault line is open. We'll take a few more calls before we wrap it up. I did see a New York number. If you can try to call back in again, go for it. Girl said, great take. Okie, salute Hammer. I got to catch the rest in the morning, but loving the interview. And thank you guys so much, Raider Nation.
I like this
life.
show. I like this show.
Well, you're more than welcome to come on anytime you'd like, Bill. You're
Hammer,
more than
you know
welcome.
where to find me. You
Absolutely.
know where to find me.
Guys, let me throw it back up one more time. Vault line is open, guys. 347-471-0361. Call on in. Ask your questions, guys. Let's see. I feel like I've missed a lot of people in here tonight. Cool Kev, salute. Big Mike, you've been in here the whole time. Appreciate you so much, bro. Jordan, let's see. Rob, of course. Raider Tiahui. I think I said it the right way. I hope I didn't butcher it. Realist Raider. Caspa. Appreciate each and every single one of y'all. Guys, make sure to break them thumbs, hit them subs, and smash the bell as well. If we're not going to get anybody else to call in, we will wrap it up. I'm giving you guys like at least another minute. And if not, we're wrapping it up. Let me get your prediction on your Giants this year. What do you think their record is going to be? And do you think that they make the playoffs?
Again, I go back to the NFC Championship game. What a season San Francisco had. And then their quarterback gets hurt early in the biggest game of the year. They're done. That's the kind of league that the NFL is. I mean, there's a prediction. If everything goes right, that's the only prediction you can make because stuff will go sideways real quick.
We do got a caller.
Call from
Big Mike.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
I don't want to ignore you. What the hell?
Come on.
Where is it? Hold on. That's why I'm calling that New York number back though. Yo, Mike. Mike.
Yo, what's good, Hammer? How's it going?
What's good, bro?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
What's good, man? Hey, shout out to you, man. Shout out to Mr. Daughtry. You're a legend. You know, I appreciate you being on the show. This has been a great show.
Thank you.
Question is not related to sports necessarily. It's more related to kind of what we're doing podcasting-wise, talking sports and things like that. What would be your number one bit of advice that you can give to somebody who's starting this thing up and talking sports and engaging to the audience and having that special voice that would transcend to everybody else in the masses? Can you give me a bit of advice, myself and to Hammer and to anybody else who's striving to be successful in this realm?
Big Mike, I don't know if you were listening earlier when I talked about I had major league tryouts. And, you know, I can look back and big part of my problem, and even as a professional broadcaster before I finally got the hang of it, don't go for the big play. The big play will come to you. Just do the small things well. You know, you don't have to be spectacular all the time. Just be spectacular in those spectacular moments. And you know when they come. Don't make the easy play look difficult to be noticed. Does that make sense to you?
That makes perfect sense.
You know,
yeah, definitely. That makes perfect sense. I can relate.
Just be that consistent meat and potatoes guy who gets his facts right. And now, especially now, what's going on in this country, in this culture, people are allergic to facts. It's a damn shame. But yeah. If you're the person that they could look to because Big Mike gives me facts, they ain't gonna give a damn about your opinions. They're gonna come to you because they know they're getting the truth from you. They're getting facts. Facts trump everything. So be that guy that's giving consistent facts. Seek the truth. Seek support for the truth. And then tell the truth.
Man, that's excellent, sir. I appreciate the advice. I'm sure Hammer does as well, and everybody else watching as well. That's all I got, man. But yeah, Hammer, great show. Mr. Daughtry, it's been an honor. I'm going to go back in the chat and I wish you guys well, and yeah, take care, sir.
Thank you, Big
Appreciate
Mike.
brother. Take care, bro. That is Big Mike, one of the members of Mal Shieldmore. Let me open this because I'm going to try to do this. Let's see. Where is that missed call? I'm going to try to get this person on right now because I feel horrible. Let's see if this works. This is outside of the box when we call somebody else. Hello?
Hello, this is Cool Kev.
Hey, what's up, bro?
How you doing?
Good, man. Sound off.
All right, I wanted to ask Mr. Daughtry, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'm looking at your message in the chat right now. Cool Kev 75.
Yes. Just want to get an old school story about Don Chaney and Patrick Ewing, if you can give some insight.
You know, I don't have a whole lot on Don Chaney. As a matter of fact, when his career was over, I was shocked to see that he had heart issues. But he was, as a player, and that's the real Don Chaney I remember. You know, the coach, not so much, because those are some bad teams, man. Those are some bad teams that he had. And he was always like in an interim role, that kind of thing. So he really never got a chance to put his stamp on the Knicks. But he was a great player with a great team that I absolutely hate, deplore to this day, the Boston Celtics. But Chaney, big guard, used to give Walt Clyde Frazier fits. Chaney was more like a small forward. Didn't shoot a lot, but when he shot, he knocked it down. And he was a good dude. He is a good dude. He's still on the planet. So that's all I got on Don Chaney. But Patrick Ewing, what I will always remember about Patrick, and a lot of people talk about he could be aloof, he could be abrasive. But when you got to sit with the brother and talk to him on his own terms, he was cool. And he did. When I retired from ESPN, they gave me a big party. And a lot of people sent in best wishes. And Patrick, he sends in, Bill, don't know what you're going to do in your retirement, but we miss you and hope you spend a lot of time fishing. Patrick, I have never been fishing in my life. But he was truly a warrior. And I just have this everlasting image of Patrick Ewing after a Knick game. Ice bags on both knees, ice packs on both shoulders, and ice bags around both elbows. And he had them on his ankles. And I'm thinking to myself, I never verbalized this to him, but I'm thinking to myself, here's this guy, one of the greatest players in the history of the league, and this is what it takes for him now to finish a game and get ready for the next game, a literal ice bath every night. And you just flash back to when he was at Ringe Latin and at Georgetown. He just put on the high tops and go out and ball. That's the cost that you pay for playing these games on that level. Fortunately, Patrick, besides that broken wrist, remember that in the playoffs against Milwaukee?
Yep.
You know, that was the most serious injury he had. He didn't have anything more serious than that, but that still cost him a lot of time and a lot of season. But you just look at the numbers and think back to your memories of him as a player, never mind wins and losses. You just talk about a guy who just gave it all to the game, and that he did not ever get a chance to win a championship. Again, that's all serendipity, man. That's part of rolling the dice, whether you get to win a championship or not. That's why people like Jeter, like Jordan, like Kobe, like Kareem, like Magic, they're special people, man, because they all, Bill Russell, well, he got 2 handfuls of rings. Everybody else got at least 1 handful of rings. You know, and here, I'll give you this on basketball. everybody, you know, they like to throw around, and we saw it at the beginning of this show. Mount Rushmore, Mount Shieldmore, got it. What's your basketball Mount Rushmore? I'm often asked this question, and there's only 4 people up there. So here it is, in no particular order: Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Julius Winfield Irving.
Wow.
That's my Mount Rushmore basketball.
Wow.
All big men.
Yeah, I mean, everybody up there got the resume, bro. Bill Russell, greatest winner in sports history, 11 to 13 years, champ. Wilt Chamberlain, who set all the records that people are trying to break now?
Well,
who's the only guy to score 100 points in an NBA game?
Well,
and oh, by the way, whose scoring record did Kareem Abdul-Jabbar break?
Well,
and how many championships did Kareem win? And we can even go back to his college career where they changed the rules because of him. You couldn't dunk when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in college because he was that dominant. And then Julius Irving, well, he just caused this little thing called a merger. He just set up what the current NBA is all about, because when he played, there were 2 leagues. And he was a rumor. Quick story, Brendan Brown's a good friend of mine. His father, Hubie, one of the greatest coaches, one of the greatest ever to pace the sideline.
Yep.
When his Kentucky Colonels won the 74-75 ABA championship, he wanted to play the Golden State Warriors, who won the 74-75 NBA championship. 4-game sweep of Washington. Red Auerbach said, no, we can't let that happen.
And
Julius Irving was, and I mean, what is today's NBA? The ABA. They didn't shoot the 3 nearly this much in the ABA, but it was 3 points, little penetration, and dunks. That's what the ABA was. What is today's NBA? Ton of 3-pointers and dunks. Nobody gets to the rim anymore. Once in a while, some do, but there's no such thing as a mid-range jumper anymore.
It got soft. That's why.
No finger rolls either.
No. And George Gervin, I told Hammer about the 81 All-Star game at the Meadowlands. I was sitting right underneath the basket. When George Gervin put the ball on the rim, it was like somebody put cotton up there. The shot was his touch was that soft.
Damn.
Great player. That's great player. He can score with anybody.
Cool, Kev. Ice, I appreciate the call, bro.
All right, thank you. Good to see you, Miss Daughtry. Come back on anytime.
Appreciate you.
Take care.
Good to see you guys. Yes. Take it easy.
All right, we got one more. So somebody try to get it in. We got calls if necessary. One more call.
One more.
Come on, yo. You guys know it's all about that content. Call on in, guys, and sound off. For those in the chat, I think my guys will really, really enjoy this too. And shout out to Wasted, shout out to Graf, shout out to Big Mike, shout out to Andy. Who am I missing? Oh yeah, Stuart Schweigert as well. Love you, buddy. We got to get you to do it at least one time for us. It's our little ongoing thing when we're live, but we always tell the nation that we come on in and we put on that good content. So if you could give us one of those, that I think all my brothers in Mount Shieldmore are going to lose their minds, but they're also going to love it as well.
Wait a minute. There's some good content right here in the chat.
Let's go. Somebody's got to clip that too.
Damien, that's why I gave it to you. Damien says, as an MJ and Bulls fan, I can't hate on that Mount Rushmore. But then Raider man comes on right behind him. No, Jordan, you crazy.
Look, the players that Bill just mentioned, like, look, they were way before I was a thought, but I was able to like watch old games on these guys. Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a guy that I absolutely respect the hell out of, both on and off the court with everything that he had done. And the same goes for Bill Russell as well. So it's like, I can't be like, nah, I disagree at all. Like that's pretty much spot on when it comes to the Mount Rushmore of basketball players. So
Can't nobody block the sky hook. Can't nobody block the sky hook today.
No, I definitely can't deny that. You know what? I think we're gonna wrap it up, guys. Yeah, this was a great show. We've actually been on a little longer than we thought. And again, 1,000 apologies for the few minutes of technical difficulties.
What happened? What? Something happened? Well, I didn't see.
There you go. What happened? I guess nothing happened.
Let me see it.
Bills, thank you so much for being a guest. Like, this is an honor. This is a privilege. Like I said, like I had the pleasure of being able to call in when you were on ESPN radio and your very last day. Like I was heartbroken. I was like, the uncle at the barbecue is not, I don't get to talk to him on a regular basis anymore and pick his brain when it comes to New York sports, but you're here, you're live right now. And it means the world to me. Like, thank you so much. And we're going to talk a little bit more off air. Like, I definitely have to pick your brain about some things as well. And shout out to Big Mike for the question he asked and the words of wisdom that you gave us as well. It definitely means a lot. Thank you so much. Content. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, on your way out, if you haven't already, do me a favor, break them thumbs, hit them subs, smash the bell to stay up to date with all your Raiders news, rumors, updates, live streams, and reactions in the official, the original, the only house built by the nation for the nation, Raider Nation News Today. Continue to stay safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. And as always, win, lose, or tie, Raider Nation till I die. And as always, on that New York, peace, love, and positivity. We are out.